I'm starting the recording. Okay, so welcome to this third and final call. Let me go ahead and introduce you to our special guest tonight. Isha Vela is a trauma psychologist, a somatic expressive healer, and the founder of Embodied Latinx Leadership Academy, also known as AYA, a social venture that supports Latinx women in their journey to feminine power, inner liberation, and conscious leadership. So that's already a mouthful. And Isha focuses her energy on supporting communities of color. She's done this for over 15 years through her company Embodied Quest, LLC, where she supports social justice activists and organizers in their quest to create a liberated society from the inside out. I'll say a little bit more about her, but I'm gonna save that because I just want to give you a chance to say, get your voice in there, Isha.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm having an interruption right now. Sasha, yo estoy en la llamada. Tú tienes que... Sí, papi te va a cocinar ahora. One child with an ear infection. And, okay, thank you. I lost my thread.
I was just saying welcome. I'm glad
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. This book is really amazing. I wish I'd written it myself, and it's just sort of the work that has been needing to happen for a long time, wrapped up in 200 pages. It's quite amazing. So it's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Yeah, and I want you to write your own book, Isha. He wrote his book, which is great.
Yeah.
And I think your book will be different. It'll be complimentary for sure.
Yeah.
But I think your perspective would be really valuable. But speaking about Resma, I just want to say, I think it's significant and important for an African-American man to stand in the lane of healing.
Yes.
In the lane of body recognition and of comfort and self-soothing and, recognizing that that's part of his responsibility as an adult to take care of his body and to help other people take care of theirs. Because that's not often seen as a masculine role.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So why don't we start with some holding space for transformation? And this is something that we do in our community to help us all get present together. And then I have a few questions to start the conversation off, Isha. And then we'll also open it up to questions from folks on the call.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll start. Do you want me to start with a grounding exercise?
I was going to start with one of the things that we do.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And then one of my questions is to, your favorite, for you to share that.
Okay, great.
So just to start off with everybody, let's go ahead and if you're seated, just go ahead and really feel your bottom on the chair. Feel your butt connecting to the chair or your cushion. Feel the back of your thighs. Then send your attention down to your feet and feel your toes. Maybe just wiggle them. Feel whether they're cold or hot or, tight together. Just notice what's going on with your toes. And then take your attention up to your heart center. And if you feel comfortable, place a hand or both hands on the center of your chest or towards the left. And notice your heartbeat. Notice what it feels like underneath your palm or your fingers. And if it feels right for you, I invite you to breathe into your heart. Just breathe in, inhaling as if you can breathe directly into your heart. And when you exhale, just exhale as if you're exhaling from the center of your chest. And if it feels right for you, just say these words out loud or quietly to yourself. I am unconditional love. I am unconditional acceptance. I am unconditional love. I am unconditional acceptance. And then when you're ready, start to wiggle your toes and your fingers. Rub your hands together. And then place your hands wherever it would feel good to have that warmth, that attention. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes, nice and easy. Hmm. Yeah. So it's not, I'm arriving. I think more of me is in the room now. So
Me too.
good to be here. I wanted to let you know, Isha, that when I sent out this invitation to people in the Racial Justice from the Heart community on my email list, we got a very big response. So we had to move this from being a Zoom meeting to a webinar because with so many people participating, it gets kind of crazy on a call like that. So I'm so pleased that so many people wanted to come, and I think it also made me a little bit nervous. All of a sudden I was like, so I just wanted to acknowledge that out loud, that,
Yeah.
And it's a great problem to have,
Yes.
that so many people wanted to be here.
Yeah.
So I guess I thought maybe the first way we could start, before jumping into the book, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about you and how you got into the somatic part of your bio. We know you're a trauma psychologist, but you also say you're a somatic expressive healer.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could say a little bit about that.
Sure, I'd be glad to. So I was working I did my internship in New York City, and then I did my postdoctoral work in community mental health in New Haven. And I was working with monolingual Spanish speakers, or mostly Puerto Rican and Dominican families with limited English proficiency. And there was a lot of trauma, a lot of childhood abuse, sexual abuse. And I was noticing that just talking about it wasn't really getting to the source. You could tell just by how they experienced themselves in their bodies that they were, that their nervous system was highly activated, and that talking wasn't able to move them down to a space where they could really inhabit their bodies. And I've been interested in sort of the body for a while, but mostly through yoga and Pilates, and just coming to this place of really seeing the effects of neighborhood violence and you know um, spousal violence really sort of sparked that in me. And so I did explore yoga, and a friend of mine, a colleague who was living in New York City, who actually went to my doctoral program with me, she told me that she attended a free workshop on this thing called core energetics, and that she had spontaneously started therapy with a core energetics therapist. And so in a conversation, I was just really curious as to like, so what are those sessions like? What happens in the sessions? And she was describing sort of this very intense process of really expressing every emotion, right? Are the emotions that we tend not to express because we fear judgment. We fear what would happen if somebody saw that, or even fear confronting that within ourselves, right? Are the places where we want to separate or be better than others, or hate. And I was fascinated by it, and I went into an immersion weekend and was hooked. And want to back up for a second. At the time that I went to the immersion, I was experiencing my own sort of you know trauma experiences, through like vicarious trauma that was touching my own childhood trauma. And so things were getting kicked up. And after having two children consecutively and going through a very stressful time in my life, including the community mental health work, which was very stressful, my body just broke down. And I had to quit that job and go into private practice full time. And then I did this immersion weekend, and I was like, I'm done. I found what I'm looking for. This is what's gonna support my body. This is the type of healing that my body needs right now. And this is what I want to bring to people.
Mm.
So I was hooked from that weekend on.
Yeah, and I was thinking about what you said about vicarious trauma,
Yeah.
because Resma talks about that in his book,
Yeah.
how secondhand or vicarious trauma, just seeing someone else have a traumatic experience, or even hearing about it,
Mm-hmm.
you could then um, have a vicarious trauma experience.
Yeah, and I believe that therapists and helpers and organizers are more susceptible to vicarious trauma when they themselves have been or have experienced trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be, little t or big T trauma. So developmental trauma, which I consider the little t trauma, or impactful, like, car accidents even, or sexual trauma, or things that are more easily defined as trauma,
Yeah.
the more obvious impactful things.
Mm. And so
Yeah.
when you're a helper or an organizer, and you are hearing people's stories, and working closely with people who are on the front lines, or who are you know experiencing systemic violence, it's like, to me, it's like you got to take extra care of yourself then.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It becomes especially important.
Mm.
Yeah, you're definitely more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting, because I was talking with someone today who was calling me for some mentorship. And when you're a helper or you're an organizer, you may perceive yourself as in, oh, people are really in pain. These people are really, really suffering, and I'm supporting them, but they're the ones who really got it bad, and feel like you're being selfish or privileged if you somehow put up limits or boundaries.
Yeah, I feel very much, and the people that are attracted to that type of work are the givers of the world, right? They're the helpers, the people that want to give of themselves and want to go out to other people. And in that going out, what often happens is that there is neglect of the self or an abandonment of the self, what you're describing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that phrase, abandonment of the self, probably relates to, other, um, I was going to say other abandonment in people's personal histories. And this is
Yeah.
me, because now you're hearing me talk about myself. you know, because I grew up in foster care and I grew up with some neglect early in my life. And, but, one of the hardest things to really take on is not abandoning myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
really staying constant
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
myself,
Yes.
even when it's, I don't know, even when it seems like it would be, there's like an attraction to do the thing that's more dramatic, or maybe the thing that's numbing, distracting.
Right. Right. Where it sort of in a relieving kind of way takes us away from our stuff.
Mm.
Right. It's like, oh, this is a lot worse. This makes my pain feel a lot less intense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in racial justice from the heart, a lot of what we focus on is like how to have difficult conversations about racism with
Yeah.
people. And one of the things I say is like the first step is to tend to yourself, is to
Yeah.
check in with your wise self and see, what do I need, and give it to yourself before you go into that difficult
Yeah.
conversation,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. This is a lot of what I teach is staying with the self before going out to others,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you need to be able to feel yourself in relation to other people, to
Mm-hmm.
be fully present and fill up, right, your own vessel, right, to be able to then pour into other people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that means staying grounded energetically, emotionally, right, being really aware of when I meet this person, what part of me is getting activated, right? And the only way that we can do that is if we're aware of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be self-responsible if we're focusing all of our attention outside to
Mm-hmm.
the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have there can be a tendency to really glorify the 1960s,
Yeah.
because it was a time of great change and a lot of progressive action and bravery and incredible sacrifice from people, Um, but as I've done more work on inner healing and inner liberation, I look at some of the things that, like in 1964, it was Freedom Summer, and a lot of young people, teenagers and young adults, um, in SNCC went down to Mississippi to do voter registration.
Mm-hmm.
63 and 64, and they met an incredible backlash of violence and the threat of
Yeah.
violence, right?
Yeah.
It was the summer that Goodwin, Scherner, and Cheney were killed.
Yes. Yes.
A white man and a black man was found in a river, Mississippi. And I was reading a bio, maybe it was I'm losing the name of this book, Coming of Age in Mississippi by Ann Moody, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, so she was talking about somebody giving a sermon, eulogy after yet another killing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how the person, the young activist just broke down, and he was crying, he was yelling, he was like, we got to go get them. He was like, no, we're nonviolence. Like, it was truly one of those, watching somebody just be like, in such incredible internal conflict and a mess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I realized, wow, how much trauma those people were going through that was completely not even being recognized,
Yeah.
and so then you push it down because you're like, we're not going to let them kick us out of Mississippi, and we're also terrorized, and our bodies are really feeling this,
Yeah.
these relationships with each other that are sometimes really great but sometimes really dishonorable, and You
Yeah.
know, that pain is just getting passed around.
That's right. That's right. And when it's unmetabolized, like Resma Menakem says, um, it just gets sort of dirty pain comes out sideways, as I like to say, right? We're holding it, we're holding it, and then it pops, then it's out, right? Then we get snippy, or you know, we pop off on somebody, because we're holding so much pain and anguish around what's happening in the world. I mean, and it can come from a place of really deep caring. And I find that grief work, right? The processing of grief is necessary. It's almost like a way to clean out the heart, right? It's almost a way to wash out the heart so that it can remain open and connected.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that I was this retreat that I went on in a shamanic tradition led by some women of color of African descent. One of the first things that we did was the grief work.
Mm,
And we went to Yemaya, we went to the mother of life, the oceans, the seas, to do
yeah.
that work.
Yes.
Like you said, clear, cleanse, and also get nurtured.
Yes. Yes, there is something that feeds the heart when you clean it, right? When you clean it with your tears, right, with your grief. There's something really magical that happens. I don't even have a full understanding intellectually of what happens, but energetically, it's I've seen it time and time again with my own experience with other people. There's just more space. Like it gets filled up with grief and we need to empty it out.
Mm, got you. It gets filled up with grief and we need to empty it out.
Yeah.
Let it out.
Yeah.
I got you.
And then we have more space to hold love and compassion and all the other things that are necessary to do heart-centered work in the world.
Yeah. Is there any kind of is there any kind of grief work that you would suggest that people could do on their own, or without a professional per se?
Yeah, I mean, it can be as simple as listening to a sad song, like
Mm,
a song that activates that in you.
mm,
And for different people, it will be different songs. Um, some people like to move and dance, and sort of be expressive in their movements, and maybe like pound on a pillow, right, as they're listening to music. Music has been something that always opens me up very easily. Um, for some people, it might be playing music if you happen to be musical. Or a lot of times, what I notice is that on top of the grief, there's a lot of rage and anger.
mm,
And sometimes it's necessary to move that layer, to peel that back before you can get into the grief.
mm,
And oftentimes what I do in my office is I'll have people hit a foam cube with a bat or a tennis racket or a pool noodle or anything you have around, a stick, even a broomstick. And you can do this at home with your mattress and just hit and just move sound through your body. Right? You don't even need words. You don't even need to sort of activate your thinking brain. Just
mm,
right? And move that first before you can feel the stuff that's underneath.
mm-hmm, mm.
Yeah.
Wow. There's something that I heard and then I started experimenting with, and this was that if you can let yourself, you can feel anything if you let yourself for 90 seconds. You can feel it and let it go through you.
Yeah.
You kind of, it's like jumping in the pool, when you think it's too cold, do you really want to do it? And then you're like,
Dreading it.
yeah. So I'm one of those people who I am I'm empowered by a timer. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
can I can meditate for 5 minutes with the timer. I can, I also have done that feeling thing where I've said, okay, I'm going to give myself 90 seconds to feel this stuff that's in me right now.
Yeah.
And what I like about what you said was layers. So what if you set your timer for 90 seconds or 2 minutes and just say, I'm just going to keep moving sound and, whacking this mattress, and I don't have to know why or what or make up a
Mhm.
story as I'm doing it. It's
Right. And one thing that I want to say about that what you know, going with what you just said, I can just whack something. I think that there's first of all, there's the relationship that we have with rage and anger. A lot of us weren't allowed to have that as children and don't give ourselves the room to have it as adults. And then there's a part where we try to make a story around it, right? And then we sort of like, well, I'm really angry. And then we sort of push it aside and sort of try to move it without going through it. So in those two situations, there is this distrust of the body just organically vomiting up its own process, right? Offering its own way of metabolizing pain.
mm,
We don't learn how to do that. Most of us have not learned that as children, and hopefully this generation of parents are doing more of that. But what I learned in my 4-year training is that when I allowed my body to simply take control, it was unbelievable what happened. It was just, it moved things much faster than my brain could process. And what came out was often astounding to me, like incoherencies, shaking movements that were strange, sometimes a little scary. But when I moved through them and was on the other side of them, I was like, wow, I had no idea that was in there. And I felt clean. I remember the time and again, the feeling that I had was like, I just like wrung myself out like a wet washcloth. And I felt clean and just like, yeah, like I got scrubbed from the inside out. So really trusting the sounds that want to come out, really asking the body what needs to happen right now is a very important process. Yeah, it is part of the metabolizing process. Like what needs to happen right now without my ego or the part of us that wants to control the body to get in the way.
wow. What needs to happen now? Wow. It's like uh, trusting yourself enough to ask it and then to listen to what you get,
And flow with the impulse.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then
to
the flow.
trust the impulse.
Yes, 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 yes. Wow. Hmm. And I wanted to link this up to it feels like this is very closely linked to white supremacy culture
Yeah.
in the sense of learning to distrust the body and
Yes.
to kind of view it as your enemy, uh,
Yes.
or as a way to survive you have to ignore the body because the truth it's bearing you know is just going to blow everything up if it gets recognized.
That's right.
That kind of
It'll
feels
blow the
like,
whole top off of everything.
yes, and it kind of feels like white supremacy culture is so much about like control and I don't know if you have any thoughts about
Yeah, I feel very much that it's also, it has sort of religious, sort of a religious tint to it, where the body is sinful, to distrust the body, right? We deny the body, right? And we trust the brain, we trust the control, right? And it really is about like controlling people's behavior. Um, so I feel, yeah, that's sort of part of it. That's all. It's sort of together. It's hard to tease apart what is white supremacy and what is religion, because I feel like it's very, very connected.
well I feel like white supremacy culture and Christianity as state religion are very
Yes. Oh,
connected.
yeah.
I mean, the rise of, you know, of Christianity as state religion, not
Yes.
as individual expression, as resistance religion, but as
Right.
that being wielded by the state to conquer other people.
Absolutely.
It's very aligned or intermingled with
Yeah. Yeah.
the whole system of whiteness.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when we honor the body, when we explore the body, when we, you know, deeply like listen to it and stuff, uh we're breaking out of this paradigm.
We're not only breaking out of the paradigm, but we're almost like breaking into another, right?
Yes.
As we leave one, we enter another. And what I've found in people's processes is that when they start to disentangle themselves from the control and begin to trust the body, that what comes through is often like um, altered states, spiritual experiences, connection to ancestors. Like when we open that door, other information starts to come in, right? When we move the ego to the side, right, other messages get downloaded.
Wow. Love what you said. Two things you said. When we open that door, other messages come in. And that's one of the ways that you can keep control of a people is by limiting their messages.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Them in your paradigm.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying, so the body being a doorway to other things coming in, other wisdom,
Yes.
other support, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Your own higher wisdom.
yes, yes, your own higher wisdom. And one of the things I feel like whether you're of European descent, you're a person of color, indigenous, uh, I think we've been trained to not trust ourselves or to all have been imbibe this belief that we're not enough,
Oh, yeah.
good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day. Um, I was listening to some podcast and somebody was talking about original sin and that how so much of this comes from like we were just born bad, right? Day one, and our lifelong quest is like hustling our way into heaven. And so this person who was speaking, I'm sorry that I can't remember his name, he was talking about like what about original blessing? Like clearly you came into this body at this time in history for a greater purpose, right? You came because you were needed, right? And you need to sort of deposit your gifts to the world and sort of contribute to the greater whole in some way. So he was offering that as a counter to this not good enough. Well, you're actually perfect, right? Like you're actually just right. Your microphone cut out. Okay,
First,
there you are again.
I gotta repeat a couple things that you said. Hustle your way to heaven. I just want to say, boom. We ain't gonna hustle our way to heaven. And then, you said instead of original sin, original blessing. And what if you came forth in this time
Yes.
for a purpose?
Yes.
Um, and so, the work is to get in alignment with the purpose
Yes.
and to let that somehow get expressed through you.
Yes. Yes. And a
Mm,
lot of the healing work is, a lot of how do I talk about this? A lot of what we think is personality
mhm.
is actually a set of defense systems that help us like cope with our environments, right? Usually adopted in early childhood, and then we sort of like we kind of build up upon it through into our adult lives. And so a lot of the healing work for me is about aligning the personality to the purpose,
Mm.
right? And so we have to, part of what needs to happen is to peel off some of the defenses,
Yeah.
right? And to sort of like bring it, right? Bring it here to the solar plexus so
Mm.
that we can, receive, um, and follow what is being asked of us.
Mm. Hmm.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many places we could go with this, but I have to get on this thing with the ancestors because that has come up. And then I'm gonna open it. I promise you all who are on the call, we'll open up to your questions next. Um, but Isha, you mentioned coming with this original blessing and we needing us needing you now. And you mentioned in your bio, you mentioned generational healing and so I wonder, tell me what you think about this. Can someone come in from can you heal your lineage? Can the work that you do now, the justice work, the healing work, uh, contribute to the healing of the lineage that brought you forth? Tell me what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, that's a big question. And I know that since you've done shamanic work, I'm guessing that you've heard that when we heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward.
Mm.
So the work that we do, quote unquote, individually is very impactful. And I've actually had the experiences of receiving messages from my grandfather, who passed away when I was in first grade. And I have had him nudge me to heal his involvement in Nazism.
Mm.
And sort of, I've had him come to me and be like, this needs to be undone. And so I have I have brought that work forth, and I have like been able to move that through my body. And I've actually had the experience too, when you're tapping into those subconscious levels, I've had the experiences of ancestors clapping and cheering for me. And I've, when you're in tune, when I'm in tune with another person and I'm working with another person, I can feel that too. So it is, I absolutely believe it to be true. And, ordinary people, let's say, like you and me and all of us in session have connection to their ancestors. And when you sort of drop into the intuitive level of knowing, they're right there. They are right there and they're waiting. I've experienced them as hungry for the healing work,
Mm.
right? Even in my mother's generation, my mother's in her early 70s, nobody talked about feelings. We have evolved so much in the last 70 years, and these are the conversations we're able to have now. Let's use them, right? Let's really use them. This is a really exciting time, right?
Mm.
Where we are open to these healing traditions, and we're open to um, like so many different ways of healing.
Mm.
It's time to do it.
Mm.
It
Mm.
is, it is a portal, right? It is an opportunity that other generations didn't have. And when we do the healing work, we're honoring them. We're honoring the ways that they had to hold and survive in order to be able to bring us into the world. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. I think that's really inspiring, especially if you have ancestry where you have abusers in your family lineage.
Yes.
You have people who committed, you mentioned Nazism, but there are people who committed who've been part of other kinds of atrocities and genocides. Um, and this came up specifically because I was, something I wrote in an email really triggered someone who comes from a Anglo-Protestant, background.
Yeah.
Wow, Anglo-Protestants have really, in the United States, have really created, uh, you know, a whole practice of disciplining and excluding, people into whiteness.
Yes.
You have to call it, name it, see it,
Yes.
see this whole history of
Yeah.
various groups coming into whiteness at different times and see what it was. It was about dividing and conquering. Anyway, so she's like, you know,
And I wanted to add to that, Amanda, that sorry, there was a little blip in the connection, but I wanted to add to to your question that there's another person from the somatic experiencing tradition named Mark Wolin, who wrote a book called "It Didn't Start with You," who actually talks about generational healing of trauma, and that some of the things that we experience, I'll give an example really quick. When I was a child, I had this fear of losing my mother, that my mother was going to die. And I would go around, I would have dreams that she would die. I was just totally freaked out about it. And there was really nothing that had happened to provoke that kind of a feeling. And I just learned, I think this past summer, that who was it? It was my great grandmother lost her mother very young. And that I the message that I received in that was that the way that she mothered my grandmother was very like, almost like possessive, right? Just like, oh, like I don't want to lose you. And we're so connected. And then that's how my grandmother mothered my mother. Like just this possessive, like we're going to be together forever. And that's sort of what is transmitted. And it ended up in me feeling like, I'm going to lose my mother. I'm going to lose my mother. Right. So these things get transmitted energetically in ways that we, can't really explain so much with the science yet, but there is more evidence through quantum physics and all that kind of things to evidence, um, parallel universes and all these different phenomena that energy is so real. Energy is so real.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, good. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
take a break from my questions for you and just check in. Um, let's see, there's something here from Linda saying, are you blaming Christianity for negative self-talk? And which branch of Christianity is this? I'm so glad that you said that, Linda, if that's what because that's what you're thinking. And, and what I want to say, just to clarify where I'm coming from, is I'm thinking about the Christianity of Constantine. I'm thinking about when Christianity got aligned with empire. So that is a specific historical moment. And it was, in my opinion, it was like a deliberate decision to use a religion to advance the interests of politics and of a, empire. So your personal practice of Christianity may be very different and very liberating. And, yeah, I just encourage people to follow their spiritual path that really works for them. I don't know, Isha, did you want to say anything about that?
No, I don't have anything to add about it, except that, I think that anything can be used in service of the light or in service of the shadow, right? The original intention of Christianity, I believe, was really to love unconditionally, and it was about service. And, humans took it and turned it into something else to advance their interests. And I think that one of the difficult aspects of humanity is the use of power, how we use power. And that there's, we keep seeing it over and over again, like people in power, even spiritual leaders, there's somewhere where the ego comes in and then they abuse their power. And so we're constantly having to watch ourselves that we don't abuse the power. And so you know, religion, the original, you know, intention was for community and for healing and all this kind of stuff. And it just got taken again, like you said, to advance a specific agenda.
Mhm.
So it, you know, that's a distortion of the original intention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think, thank you. I love how you said that was a distortion. I love how you said that. What are the, okay, so I wonder, what are your favorite ways, Isha, to create body ease? Because Resma in the book, he has a lot of suggestions for, you know, in fact, short, quick ways to
Mm-hmm.
uh, create more ease in the nervous system.
Yeah.
We can be present, you know, and I don't know, act from our highest good, highest self, calm self, whatever you want to call it. What are
Yeah.
some things that you like to do?
I like to move. I'm a mover.
Mm.
I like to dance. Like I said, music sort of opens me up. And often when I'm with clients, we'll start by moving. And it can be even be like a gentle side to side movement, or it can be like just opening up the shoulders and just becoming aware of our bodies.
Can you lead us through something?
Sure, sure.
Because I want to experience.
Yeah, um so let's just start by, you know, like moving your body and again listening to what your body needs. You know, I'm sitting, so I'm just kind of twisting and noticing that my lower back needs to twist. I need to sort of open up my back and maybe open up the chest. And we tend to hold our bodies in sort of in chronic ways. And so notice what that is for you, right? And see if you can do the opposite right now. As you breathe and let yourself have a long, noisy exhale, deep into the lower belly, past the belly button and into the bowl of the pelvis. Right? And sometimes, you know, you can be someone who tends to hold in the jaw, in which case it's helpful just to expand, right? Or if you tend to pull your shoulders up, right, to really pull them down. Some people bring in their bodies. Can you widen, right, and let your shoulders relax? And can you take up more space with your arms and get bigger, right? And what's really important about breath, as you probably know already, is like when we breathe down into our pelvises, we're filling up the torso, and the torso is sort of the house of all of our feelings, right? And we're bringing the breath down to our first chakra and filling up the torso as you move, right? The more you breathe, the more you feel, the more you can be in touch with feeling. Yeah, so maybe just moving in a circle. I think of this sometimes as stirring the pot a little bit. You're stirring the pot and moving things around and seeing what you notice in there as you move. Thinking of your body as sort of a hollow space and checking out in your mind's eye or with your awareness, what's in there? Where do I feel some contraction? Where do I feel some resistance? Where do I feel really open? What am I holding where? If you can feel tension in your shoulders, what am I holding there? Does it feel like a weight? Right? And then you can get creative with it too, with your with an intuitive sense, does it feel like you're carrying your ancestors with you?
I feel like you should have a morning show called Mornings with Isha. Like, just 5 or 10 minutes, 7 a.m. You can just
Yeah.
do, just
That
because it
sounds,
doesn't take a lot, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is. It is really simple. And we often don't take the time because we're so rushed, but it really is just about 5 minutes. It's just a check-in. And that can be your mindfulness practice for the day, just checking in, every couple of hours. That is a really beautiful way to take care of yourself and to be present with yourself as you are out in the world supporting other people.
Mm. Okay, so like raise your virtual hand if you're somebody who knows you haven't been checking in with yourself, who knows you have not been checking in with yourself on a daily basis or every few hours. Like just when you said it, Isha, I felt some tears rise up. It's like,
Mm.
it's not only okay, it's wow.
It's a way to be gentle with ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a way
Yeah.
to be kind and pay attention and love.
Hmm.
Love our bodies, honor our bodies.
Mm.
Yeah.
I just feel like, Resma was talking about it's only in recent generations that people of African Americans have had dominion over our bodies in the United States.
Yes.
And but what we have is generations of other people having dominion over us and neglecting, pushing, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so
Oh, yeah.
assuming that responsibility for our bodies and the the kind care that you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
oh
It's a luxury that our ancestor did not have.
I mean quite the opposite, you know.
Yeah.
But you said your ancestors are like cheering you on and wanting you to do this healing work because it
Yeah.
reverberates back.
Yes, it touches them. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though they couldn't do it, doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it or that you doing it won't be a really beautiful thing forwards and backwards.
Yeah. And just sometimes when I encounter in other people the resistance to doing the work, and these are, mostly helpers of the world, I say, you're doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for other people. And that usually gets them much more on board, much quicker, so that's just a funny story because, we're often so eager to do things for other people, and less likely to do it for ourselves. So if we can get on board with the ancestors, then, maybe we're more likely to do this healing work.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple of other questions for you. I want to encourage other people, if you guys have questions, to put them in the chat or in the Q&A. So I'm going to look at this. Okay. So I was asking you what your favorite things were. And let me ask you this, Isha. So what would you say to somebody who is like, uh, um, okay, so you're of Puerto Rican descent, right? Heritage,
Puerto Rican and German, yeah.
Puerto Rican and German heritage. And so some part of you has inherited the experience of colonization,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And even if you weren't German, and also because you are also German, of German heritage, I wonder, like, do you feel like the colonizer also lives inside your body?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what
I
do you
think,
think of that?
yeah, it's so powerful because, I didn't grow up in the I mean, I grew up in the United States, but I was born in a colonized place. And so my experience of colonization is very palpable. From going to a military school to being taught American history and not Puerto Rican history. I mean, it's very intense experience around self-denial. I mean, just to share an anecdote, I was on the cheerleading squad, and we ordered our uniforms from the United States, and we were wearing acrylic shirts in 90-degree weather. So talk about like not being in touch with our reality, with our immediate reality. So an intense self-denial. And so there's a way that when again, energetically or through lived experience, there's ways that we deny ourselves, or there's ways that we gaslight our own experiences, right? Our inner gaslighter, our inner killer, our inner critic, our inner judge. Those are all parts of colonialism, you can call them patriarchy, you can call them capitalism, the part of us that is like, your worth is what you produce, right? So that is sort of how we hold capitalism in our bodies, right? How we measure our worth by what we produce, or the way we the gaslighters, like, do you really feel that? Like, is that really true? Like really sort of taking ourselves out of our own and trusting our own experiences. Yeah, you didn't really feel that, So these are all things that live in us that, that are persistent, that are deeper, usually from an earlier wounding, that can be healed. That can be healed. We can, and it's not that we get rid of them entirely, but they no longer have the hook, that they don't stop us from doing things. We notice like, oh yeah, you're there again. There you are. Okay, you can go away now. I'm going to keep moving forward. So they lose their hold on us when we heal them.
Mm.
They can show up and they can move on out.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking, just for myself, I'm thinking about, you know, and I think this should be the case for all of us. I think it's a human thing,
Oh yeah.
of having a thought, and maybe everybody might have a different one, but that hooks you, that
Yes.
gets you down the path of self-doubt and self-criticism, and
Yeah.
that'll wake you out of a sleep, or take you out of your yummy juicy meditative space, and then wow, I was
Yeah.
tied up again.
Yeah.
And it just made me think, isn't there a kind of like, I'm going to call it energetic warfare, because I don't have another term for it right now, but you can control people by preoccupying and controlling their minds.
Oh yeah.
Their consciousness, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you get us, if we're all having these, like, if we've got these little viral thoughts going on that keep us from really experiencing self-love and, inner peace, or groundedness,
Yes.
then we're just so easy to manipulate, or to keep
Yeah.
keep scattered, or
Mm-hmm.
out of,
Mm-hmm.
keep out of our power.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It really is about power. You nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something that you sort of touched into that I want to come back to, that is about power, um, is that when we allow ourselves to feel into some of these places, like, some of those thoughts, or those repeated messages that just kind of take us out of our love, or out of our peace, are usually things like, I don't matter, or I'm too much, or I'm not good enough. Sort of the really foundational core beliefs that we hold. And yeah, those can be really powerful, and they can really take us out. That was another point. Oh yes, about power. Often these are tied into shame.
Mm.
Right? These tie right back into shame, and shame and fear are two feelings that we don't we avoid at all costs. Like we'll eat, a tub of Haagen-Dazs just not to feel shame, or we'll, stay on our Facebook, and we'll do this and we'll do that, and we'll distract ourselves in order to not feel some of these deeper feelings. But trust that when you allow yourself to go there, you burn through it. You burn through it and you come out the other side stronger, and you can look back and you're like, I felt that and I didn't die.
Mm.
And that is what I believe is part of the inner liberation process. When we allow ourselves, when we trust that we can feel anything, right? We can be in any situation and we can feel raw pain, right? Clean pain, as Resmaa Menakem says, can feel it all. Then there is nothing to avoid. There's just your yes to life. I'm here for all of it. And that is freedom for me. That is inner freedom.
Mm. Mm.
There's no needing to push anything away. There's no need to defend against anything. It's just, it moves right through. You feel it and you move it.
Mm. Wow. You feel it and you move it.
Yeah.
Isn't it so interesting that we talk about movements for social change, right? Yeah. And, and part of the movements is the moving of these feelings.
Yes.
We started with the grief. We started with talking about allowing grief to pass through us, washing away.
Yeah, churning it through, metabolizing it, digesting it. Yeah.
Yes.
Transforming it. It is a transformation.
Yes. And so I feel like we've been going an hour, so I'm gonna sort of head us to wrap up. Even though there's a lot more, I have other questions I could ask you. But I wanted people on the call to know how they can get more of you if they want to sort of get more in touch with your wisdom, your perspective. Is there like a website they can go to, or an article that you recommend?
Sure, yeah, they can go to www.embodiedquest.com. And I also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. I usually post on Instagram about twice a week. If you go on my webpage, you can sign up for newsletters. I send those out about every 2 weeks, and they usually have events, but also I'm just offering something in each newsletter, just a meditation practice or some words of wisdom for, and tailored to people who are doing organizing work, and, bringing in sort of relevant stuff that's going on, storytelling and connecting. Yeah. So that's a great place to find me.
Awesome. And I noticed that there were a couple more questions that came in, so I just want to say them out loud so that we can just hear them. One is, my nature is unbridled joy, so why do we support so many systems that oppress joy? And why are we so committed to supporting a culture of sacrifice? And I think those are beautiful questions, just like reverberating questions. Why are we so committed to a culture of sacrifice? Like, that's what we should strive for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big question. Yeah. I mean, it's like something that, is sort of an ongoing answer. The first thing that comes to mind, I was just, with my Ella venture, we talked about some of the cultural stereotypes of like how one is to be a woman in Latinx culture, and one is the self-sacrificial mother, right? Like we derive some sort of value based on what is supported in the culture in sacrificing ourselves, right? So there's a way that we can feel good enough, right? Going back to those core beliefs, we feel good enough when we're sacrificing ourselves, when we're giving to the point of depletion. There's something our ego is taking a bite out of and saying like, yeah, like now I can feel myself, now I'm worth something, right? Where we get a hit. So, I think it's always important to look at sort of what is the ego how are we feeding that, right? When we support self-sacrificing systems and cultures,
Wow.
what are we getting out of it?
Wow. Wow. Well, there's so much to unpack in that. I love that, looking for the archetypes that are supporting this sacrificial kind of ideal, a sacrifice as ideal,
Right, right.
where it lives in the cultures that we're brought up in,
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's all. And then how specifically for women, how it comes out, uh, with this giving
Mhm.
to the point of nothing being there anymore. And then you really hit the jackpot. Then
That's right.
you're a real good woman. And then anything else, you just a selfish. You're selfish.
That's right. And then you're judged, right, for taking care of yourself. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And then you're,
absolutely.
but I want to say there is a few women in my life, there are two women of color who really stand out for me, how they are so willing to not entertain your judgment about their boundaries. Very clear, like, I've been like, wow, I love that. That energy is fierce.
That's good people to have around.
Yes, yes, because there's something very seductive for me about the sacrifice model.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah. I've
I'm,
been there, done that. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
felt I had to do that. I felt that was the right thing. It was the right way to do it.
yes.
And I wanted to get it right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to be good. I was on a quest to be good. And the heroes we had were MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., and Jesus, both of whom were, assassinated,
Right.
struck down, torn down, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
So, yeah, well, Dr. Isha Vela, I'm so grateful that we've had a chance to have this exploration together. I want to let everybody on this who listens to this webinar, views it later, know that you can go to embodyquest.com to find more, to sign up for Isha's, bi-weekly or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Every time you
Yeah. Bi-monthly newsletter.
do. And I'm looking forward to working with Dr. Isha in the future. We're going to keep talking about some ways that we might collaborate, in person with some live, healing together. I know that you're going to be doing a workshop for Black women, women.
Yeah, let me look at that. I want to pull that up really quick.
Okay, so I'll let you pull that up. So, did you?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a weekend workshop at Pendle Hill in Wallingford, Pennsylvania, called the Sankofa Path, Healing the Traumas of Racism. And this is really the brainchild of Irva Baden, who's been doing this work for much longer than I have. And it's on Friday, March 17th to Sunday, March 29th. And so it really is about the ancestral healing work through the energy body. And we have all sorts of ways to sort of to move and churn and metabolize that energy and connect to mind, body, spirit as one.
Yes.
Yeah,
So, and that one in particular is for women of African descent or African
that's
American,
right. Yeah,
right?
U.S. born. Yeah,
US women
yeah,
of African descent.
yeah.
So if you fit that, you definitely want to check it out. And if you don't, please stay in touch with Isha anyway. She's got beautiful wisdom and opportunities for you, I'm sure. And I'm gonna also, my gift to you all for this all the people who've been participating in the My Grandmother's Hands book group. I was gonna call it book club. I just want you to know I'm grateful. I thank you for your, company along the way, helping me to continue reading the book. And as a gift to you, I'm saving space in my schedule for up to 3 people, but no more than 3, to have a free racial justice breakthrough session with me. And that is time for me to talk with you one-on-one about where you're stuck in your self-care, maybe where you're stuck in your core beliefs, where you're stuck in these practices, so that you can emerge with at least knowing at least one thing that you can do to improve your situation, and with a greater understanding about why you're stuck there. So that's my commitment to you. So please don't be shy. Go ahead, and you have to fill out this little form, but that's okay. It just helps me to be prepared for you. And like I said, I have space for up to 3 people. So if you want this, go ahead and apply for it right away. You'll get an email with the link in there. All right. So with that, Dr. Isha, I want to say thank you. Thank you to you, and thank you to your ancestors for sending you back.
Thank you, Amanda, for the invitation. It was a pleasure and an honor. And thank you for everyone who attended.
Yeah.
And asked questions.
This is a keeper. So it's going to be available as a replay. I'm going to allow it to be up for 48 hours so that, come back to it, listen to it again, and we'll be in touch. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye, Isha.
Bye.